Welcome to our virtual event to announce the 2021 Southeast New England Program Watershed Grants in Massachusetts. I'd like to thank you for joining us this morning. You know, it's always a little interesting to do these things virtually, and so bear with us if we have any issues making the technology work, but I think we've got it figured out, and we're really looking forward to having an interesting program for you this morning. Before I get started, I'd just like to thank EPA Region 1, our partner in Southeast New England Program, and SNEP Watershed Grants. And I'd also like to just give a shout out to the SNEP Network, which is the Technical Assistance Network and part of Southeast New England Program groups that are working to implement this program in the region. We'll have a brief speaking program today, a number of interesting speakers to address the program overall, and then I'll introduce you to our grantees in Massachusetts. We had an event last week in Rhode Island to introduce the Rhode Island grantees to everybody. Let me just briefly tell you just a little bit about who I am and why I'm here, and about our organization before I kick off the speaking program. Again, my name is Tom Ardito. I'm the director of the SNEP Watershed Grants program for Restore America's Estuaries. RAY is a national nonprofit, and we're a network of 10 coastal conservation organizations around the country. And we partner with EPA, as I mentioned, to administer Southeast New England Program Watershed Grants, which is just, one of the components of the Southeast New England Program. The Southeast New England Program itself, or SNEP, was begun in 2012 through the efforts of Congressman Keating, who will be speaking in a moment, and the rest of the Rhode Island and Massachusetts delegation in Southeast New England. The geographic region that it pertains to is all of Rhode Island and then most of southeastern Mass. So that includes the Cape, the islands, Buzzards Bay area, and in fact, all the way west to Worcester, because it includes the Narragansett Bay watershed. And so the Blackstone River, which flows into Narragansett Bay, it includes that watershed. It includes the Taunton River watershed, so it includes Taunton, Massachusetts in that area as well. The SNEP program has kind of two main components, and one is kind of a planning and coordination component, and the other is an implementation component. And I think it's really these two components working together that makes SNEP an effective program. On the planning side, there's a strategic plan and a vision that the SNEP program under EPA's guidance has developed, working with stakeholders throughout the region. And you can go on the website, the SNEP website, which is just epa.gov/SNEP, and see that strategic plan. And it sets forth a vision for 2050 for the SNEP region, which includes clean waters, healthy ecosystems, and sustainable communities. And everything we try to do with the SNEP program really looks at the intersection of those three goals and trying to fund and implement holistic projects that accomplish all of those goals. The implementation component of the program, there's really two aspects of that, and one is technical assistance through the SNEP network, and the other is SNEP Watershed Grants, which is what we're here to talk about today, which is kind of the funding component of the program, where we look to fund local solutions to regional problems, and then also to help facilitate the regional transfer of knowledge and assistance of people sharing those solutions and sharing those successes and sharing those innovations throughout the region. Since 2012, the SNEP program has provided about $40 million throughout the region to address clean water, healthy ecosystems, and sustainable coastal communities. And the emphasis is really on results and on trying to fund projects that are both effective in their own right and that are replicable and that can be used throughout the region, like I said before, to help solve the common problems that we have in the region, whether it's nutrient pollution, whether it's coastal erosion, whether it's habitat degradation. SNEP Watershed Grants itself, the program that we manage, since 2018 has provided about $10 million in federal funding in grants to a variety of local organizations for these kinds of projects. We've funded over those last 4 years 50 projects throughout the SNEP region, from Worcester to Westerly, Cape Cod, New Bedford, the islands, and we'll speak with some of those grantees today. This year, SNEP Watershed Grants is funding 14 projects, totaling about $1.75 million. And of those, 5 are in Massachusetts, and those are the ones we're here to really discuss today. The 5 projects together represent $600,000 in federal grants, and but with the non-federal match that's provided by the grantees, it represents more than $1.25 million in new funding to solve environmental problems in southeastern Massachusetts. And with that, it's my honor and my privilege to introduce Congressman Bill Keating, who represents the 9th District of Massachusetts and has been a longstanding supporter of this project.
Tom, am I on board? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Well, again, thank you very much. I gave you a little background of Buzzards Bay, since we can't be at some of the on-site locations that we had in the past. This virtual meeting we'll have to do, but I look forward to doing that again in the future. And thank you for your work. You know, the SNEP program is everything and then some of what we, particularly Senator Reid and myself, had envisioned going forward. It's just from a very practical sense, when we look at the $1.75 million and the 14 projects, it's a force multiplier in terms of financial resources. The nature of these grants really leverages a lot of nonprofit community support together, so that what we move forward with in priorities is something that's greater than the initial grant itself. It's really its goal of meeting a resilient ecosystem, safe and healthy waters, thriving watersheds, natural lands, and sustainable communities. When this was started as a program, they were priorities then, but climate change and nutrient pollution, all those things have made it a more important project than it even was then. And so the work that we continue to do in Congress supporting these efforts, the work with our partners in EPA, the work trying to prioritize estuary and holistic approaches to dealing with climate change and this kind of pollution is so important as we move forward. But I think something that's often overlooked, Tom, is the priority that you've done in awarding these grants, and that's the really huge multiplying benefit of sharing information. I view these grants as not only dealing with and mitigating with current problems and planning for the future, but the work that's being done here is going to go far, far beyond just our regional area. These are going to be programs and planning that are going to be recyclable throughout not only our country, but perhaps internationally as well, as we make that a continued priority of our country. So I want to congratulate all the grant holders, as I often do, particularly the ones that are in my district right now. But before I get to there, I just want to thank and congratulate Mass Audubon, not in the district doing this particular grant, but also doing fine work throughout our region and throughout our Commonwealth. So congratulations to you on your stream restoration and wetland grant that you have. When you look at the district grants, you really see the diversity and the importance of and really the scope of what these grants do. If you look at the Sheriff's Meadow Foundation and what they're doing with the stream restoration, culvert replacement, they're moving forward to let the natural streams and waterways, do the work that nature intended for them to do and to be much more effective. When you look at the Harwich Conservation Trust and what they're doing with the Herring River Headwaters, eco restoration project, again, you're seeing that kind of holistic approach to dealing with things. And then in the prevention and planning side, you can look at the Association to Preserve Cape Cod and what they're studying with this grant, dealing with stormwater management at public boat ramps. Now, that's a big deal. These are the kind of factors that weigh into pollution and the introduction of pollution into our environment. So studying this will be a lesson not only for our region, but I think for our entire country as well. Also, importantly this year, I think the selection of in New Bedford of the Groundwork South Coast Group in dealing with their issues there. A really cautionary tale comes forward when you look at what that community and area has dealt with for years and years and years of trying to deal with the impacts of industrial contamination. It's a lesson to us in terms of preventing future types of industrial contamination, something that's really on the front burner and unfortunately a matter of some controversy in our country and Congress right now as we go forward. But to see this grant going to that community and dealing with their efforts to deal with the effects of that contamination, but also do some planning going forward is critical. So as I looked at all the awards, I could really see and want to congratulate all the people that spent their time analyzing these grants, prioritizing the grants. They're all good. Even the ones that weren't selected are critically important, but in keying in on some of the real vital areas that need attention. They're cost effective because of the matching funds, as I mentioned. They're cost effective because of the information sharing that's going to go on even beyond our region. And it's cost effective because going forward, we have to be careful not to introduce more pollutants in there. The cost of mitigation, the inability to mitigate in some instances continues to be a problem. And as we deal with continuing threats, PFAS and other threats throughout the country and trying to deal with those, these will be lessons learned. This will be a way forward. This will be cost effective. It emphasizes holistic, natural ways of dealing with it, which again are cost effective. I'm really proud of the work that's been done by SNEP. And I'm just looking forward to continuing that effort and knowing that it's so important, not just in the communities I represent, not just in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and Rhode Island and the other New England states, but for our whole country. And these are lessons we can, I think, export around the world. So congratulations. I just keep getting impressed with the great work you're doing.
Thank you so much, Congressman, and we really appreciate your support and also your knowledge, your knowledge about these issues, and it really shows your depth of interest in the issues we work on. Next, I'd like to introduce our primary partner in the SNEP program, and that's EPA, and Ken Moraff, who's the Water Division Director for EPA Region 1 out of Boston, which is the division of EPA that we work with on this program.
Thanks, Tom, and good morning to everyone. I'm really happy to be here with so many of our important partners in this program, people who support the program and make it work in so many ways. And of course, very prominent among those supporters is our congressional delegation. And I especially want to thank Representative Keating, who has championed this program now for so many years since the beginning. I want to acknowledge our other congressional representatives as well, Senators Warren and Markey, whose commitment really allows SNEP and all of our partners to carry out this important work. Because of that support, we have been able to provide the SNEP region with over $37 million in grants, contracts, and technical assistance in recent years. And this funding is making a real difference in our coastal watersheds in both Massachusetts and Rhode Island. I have been lucky enough to have been involved in SNEP in the early days when it was just being formed. And I remember how excited everyone was, both in my office and among all the stakeholders in the region, about this chance to fill in the last gap in our work along the New England coastline. So this really was an amazing opportunity, and I thank all of you who have helped us seize it and make it work. It's now a decade later almost, and SNEP funding has generated dozens of partnerships, innovations in all different areas to address stormwater, nutrients, habitat, sustainable development. And it's due to all of your hard work. I want to acknowledge our state colleagues, including Mass DEP, Mass Fish and Game. I also want to recognize the cities and towns and all of the grantees and environmental organizations who are really the heart of our program. We could not do this without you. You are our frontline workers as we tackle climate change, nutrients, all the other challenges of our coastal waters. SNEP really exists to help you and support you in this vital work. We've heard from a lot of communities that their biggest need is to get hands-on help, to build capacity to help them fix their own environmental issues. And to provide that support, last year we launched the SNEP Network that Tom talked about. It's a technical assistance program that offers direct help to SNEP communities. Because one of the things, if you've worked in this business for a while, and I work at the federal level, but I really have come to see that if you really want to solve environmental problems, there's nothing more important than building local capacity to tackle those problems. Because the issues that we are facing now, they threaten the quality of life in our communities, and the solutions that we choose will have a big impact on that quality of life. And so we want to give cities and towns the tools that they need to make local choices about how to protect local resources and become more resilient. So this unique program, this no-cost support that we're able to provide to build local capacity is a vital part of SNEP. Communities can then use that capacity that they've built to manage the kind of grants that Restore America's Estuaries is announcing today. I want to spend a minute just talking about this partnership with Tom and Restore America's Estuaries and how important that is. That's what is allowing EPA to deliver a locally driven grant program that funds homegrown projects. And those projects, as you'll hear more about the details later in the program, we're cleaning up polluted waters, we're protecting critical habitats, we're protecting landscapes, we're helping communities become more resilient. At the same time, we're economically robust. And we're really excited that Ray has been selected through a competitive process to continue to serve as our partner in managing these SNEP grants in years to come. Ray is going to be receiving another $2 million this year and up to $15 million over the next 5 years for critical projects throughout the SNEP region. So I know that all of you share my enthusiasm about this project. The energy around all this work is catching. We look forward to more of these announcements in the future. Look forward to being with all of you in person next year. And as we hear about the results of these projects and about future rounds of projects. So I want to thank all of you again for working with us to restore habitats, to ensure clean water, and to build resilient and thriving communities throughout this region of New England. So thank you, Tom, and thanks to all of you.
Thanks, Ken. And again, we really appreciate EPA's support. And I work with Ken's staff really closely, as you can imagine, and they're just a really great bunch of people and really committed to the mission of the SNEP program, really enthusiastic about it. And it's just a pleasure to work with them on a daily basis. Next, I have the privilege of introducing Gerard Martin, who's the Deputy Regional Director of the Bureau of Water Resources for Mass Department of Environmental Protection. And we work closely with DEP. DEP serves on our review committee in helping us to select the grants that we fund each year. And we also work closely with DEP on a project basis. In many cases, we've funded programs that DEP has had involvement with either on the permit side or on the technical side. And so we really appreciate the support of DEP in Massachusetts. And with that, I'm happy to introduce Gerard.
Sorry about that. Good morning, everybody. I'm kind of the new kid on the SNEP block. I've been at DEP since 1993, but from 1993 to just this past June, I was in the Bureau of Waste Site Cleanup, overseeing the cleanup of hazardous waste sites throughout the Southeast region. Some of those legacy sites that Congressman King referred to. And in June, I became the Deputy Regional Director for the Bureau of Water Resources. Having worked in waste site cleanup, I did work on a number of natural resource damage sites, which is very similar to the types of projects that we're talking about today. So I'm really excited that I'm going to have the opportunity to work on more of these projects as I wind down my career at DEP. And because I'm the new guy, I think my comments will be relatively brief, but I just wanted to say that Mass DEP and SNEP are equally committed to the restoration and protection of the coastal waters, watersheds, and communities of southeastern New England. Although Mass DEP plays a significant role in implementing programs to restore, preserve, protect, and monitor coastal watersheds, given our limited responsibility, jurisdiction, and resources, Mass DEP cannot do it alone. And we rely on the formation of interagency groups to enhance the region's environment. Through the funding provided by these grants, these stakeholders will be able to become more engaged in developing the plans necessary to restore coastal watersheds and implement restoration projects to address regional priorities. This funding will help facilitate integrated and interdisciplinary approaches to water quality issues and ecosystem restoration, as well as provide holistic sub-watershed-wide planning, and allows for the critical cooperation of governmental and non-governmental organizations to provide input on how best to address the regional challenges, identify strategic restoration priorities, and enable testing and adoption of restoration best practices, and build on broad regional capacity to adopt and implement innovative approaches. Mass DEP is excited to support the recipients of the 2021 SNEP Watershed Grants. Having worked in waste site cleanup, I've done a lot of work in New Bedford. I'm very excited that New Bedford is getting their first SNEP grant. I'm also a big fan of Mass Audubon and use their properties quite a bit. And some of the projects that I've worked on under the NRD program includes, dam removals and culvert replacements. So I understand the importance of the Sheriff Meadow Foundation's project at the Roth Woodlands, and I'm excited to see the restoration of the 30 acres of retired cranberry bogs as part of the Hinckley Pond Herring River Headwaters, and understand the critical nature of the Association Preserve Cape Cod Stormwater Management at Public Boat Ramp. These are all great projects, and Mass DEP thanks the Southeast New England program and all the grant winners in their efforts to enhance the environment of Massachusetts.
Thanks, Gerard. We really appreciate your work, and we appreciate the support of DEP in this program. I mean, I'm in Rhode Island, and I really couldn't manage this program. I just don't have the level of local knowledge of the Massachusetts projects that the folks from DEP and DER do. And with that, it's my pleasure. The next person I'd like to introduce to speak with you is Beth Lambert, who's the director of the Division of Ecological Restoration with the Department of Fish and Game in Massachusetts.
Good morning, and congratulations to this year's SNEP grantees. As Tom said, my name is Beth Lambert, and I'm the director of the Massachusetts Division of Ecological Restoration. We're a state agency that is part of the Massachusetts Department of Fish and Game. Our mission is to restore and protect rivers, wetlands, and watersheds for the benefit of people and the environment. And so we work in partnership with federal, state, and local organizations and municipalities on projects across Massachusetts that restore coastal and freshwater rivers and wetland ecosystems, and also help people and nature adapt to climate change. We're a partner in multiple SNEP projects including 2 awardees this year. And in fact, you can see Broadmeadow Brook, one of the awardees with Mass Audubon in the image behind me. I'll just shift over so you can see it. So it's in the middle of, Worcester, and is an example of a project that will benefit the urban landscape. So the SNEP program's mission and vision align with the Commonwealth's vision for the future. Together, we envision clean water and healthy ecosystems that benefit all people. We envision individuals and organizations from the grassroots to the municipal, the state, and the federal level working together to restore nature and to help communities build resilience in the face of climate change and sea level rise. I want to highlight 4 aspects of the SNEP program and SNEP grant awards that match Massachusetts needs in ways that are unique and critical, and in ways that few other federal or state grant programs are able to address. And you'll hear in what I'm saying, the echo of what others have said on the agenda before me this morning. So first, the SNEP program really emphasizes capacity building. In our division's experience working across the state, municipalities, NGOs, and others really want to restore ecosystems and build resilience to climate change, but they lack the capacity and the resources to do it. The SNEP program really aims to fill that capacity and resource gap. Second, the SNEP program has a willingness to invest in testing innovative solutions and developing new tools for addressing common environmental problems. And then not only testing those tools, but sharing the results and the learning regionally. That, in my experience, is truly unique. Most agencies prefer to invest in sort of tried and true techniques that have been used before over and over, and rarely take the risk to invest in new solutions that may or may not work, but need to be tested. Third, the SNEP program really seeks to ensure diverse representation in its programs, its activities, and in its funding. We believe that that is really the best and only path forward for working with all communities to restore nature and adapt to climate change. And finally, the SNEP program helps Massachusetts investigate ways in which the power of nature can protect urban landscapes. Not only can nature protect urban landscapes from sea level rise and climate change, but as we've learned over the last 18 months during the pandemic, nature is critical, particularly in urban environments, as safe places where people can seek solace and be outdoors together in community. So in closing, I want to thank the SNEP program and its partners for developing this unique vision and for bringing together the resources to implement it. Thank you for investing in Massachusetts and the resources that you bring, along with the technical assistance and the regional networking and sharing. So thank you, and we're excited to be working together.
Thank you, Beth. We really appreciate your thoughts. I think you spoke more eloquently of the SNEP program than I certainly did, and we really appreciate that. Well, thanks to that ends the portion of our program speaking with the kind of the SNEP side of things. Those of us who support the SNEP program, whether the congressman or state and federal agency folks. And now I have the pleasure of introducing you to our grantees in Massachusetts so that each of them can speak a little bit about the work that they're doing, the projects that we funded, and you can meet them and learn a little bit more about their work. And first, I'd like to introduce Maura Ramsey, who's the Director of Groundwork South Coast.
Hi, thank you so much. We are so excited at Groundwork South Coast to be a SNEP recipient. My name is Maura Ramsey. I'm the Executive Director of Groundwork South Coast. And we are an organization that is 4.5 years old. We really started to work at that intersection of what I've heard so many folks talk about, is how there's that important need on this call today. I mean, that important need to have folks filling in the gaps and really working on the ground in our communities to be thinking about innovative solutions to really foster solutions for both community and our ecosystems. And so what's so exciting for us with this funding is that we have been working with many different partners, including the mayor's office in the city of New Bedford, the Office of Resilience and Environmental Stewardship, the Office of Parks, Rec, and Beaches, the Department of Public Infrastructure, as well as the National Park Service Rivers and Trails Conservation Assistance Program, as well as a few different coalitions in New Bedford, Love the Ave and the Near North End Alliance in particular, to really begin to think more strategically about how we center environmental justice community leadership with the sort of change-making solutions that we're seeking to achieve that will really work on building a more resilient future for our community. That is the neighborhood that we're focusing this project in, is the home to one of the largest Superfund sites in the country. And so, you know, we believe that this grant really is going to enable us to foster building healthy communities and ecosystems, utilizing nature-based solutions and community-centered leadership. Thank you.
Thanks, Maura. I should have mentioned the name of her grant, which is Developing the North End of New Bedford Resilience District. So thanks, Maura. And now I'll introduce Tom Lautzenheiser. Did I say your name correctly?
Yes, Tom, thanks.
Oh, good. Okay. Who's with Mass Audubon, and he's the project leader for the Broadmeadow Brook wetland and stream restoration that Beth Lambert just mentioned. Hi, Tom.
Hello, good morning, everybody. And thanks so much for SNEP's support. And thanks for the acknowledgement, Congressman Keating, for Mass Audubon's work more broadly. We're really excited about the Broadmeadow Brook Restoration Project as a partnership between the City of Worcester, Mass Audubon, and the Division of Ecological Restoration to really envision a kind of wholesale restoration of a degraded wetland complex. Headwaters are the linchpin of watershed health. So water quality starts at the top of the watershed. So we're really trying to be ambitious here in addressing flooding concerns, water quality issues, wildlife habitat, and natural community integrity through this project. The linchpin here is that we have a 40-acre wetland complex divided by a forced sewer main causeway. That sewer main's been decommissioned, and we have an opportunity now to remove the causeway to some degree and restore more natural hydrology through at least half of that wetland complex, which should alleviate upstream flooding that the neighborhood and environmental justice community experiences, and deal with invasive plant issues and other things. We're also partnering hopefully with the Clark University academics and students there to draw in, foster the education of the next generation of ecosystem restoration practitioners. And I think it's just we hope to be implementing this ambitious project. This grant is going to help us further our conceptual design and hopefully moving to implementation in the coming years. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. And we were really happy to fund this project, not only because it's a really good project, but the Blackstone River is, flows through both Massachusetts and Rhode Island and is such an important tributary in Narragansett Bay. And in the past, we haven't had that many proposals from the Blackstone River. So we're really glad this year to have some good proposals to fund this one in the headwaters, as Tom said, of the Blackstone River. And then we have another project we're funding at the very downstream end of the Blackstone River in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. So we've kind of bookmarked the river this year with a couple of really, really good grants. Next, I'm happy to introduce Kristen Gagan, who is with the Sheriff's Meadow Foundation out on Martha's Vineyard. And this project, I think Congressman Keating also alluded to, and it's called the Roth Woodlands Stream Restoration Culvert Replacement.
Unfortunately, Kristen had to cancel last second. She wasn't able to join
Oh,
us.
okay. Well, you can refer to our, take a look at our website and the press materials. You'll learn a little bit more about that, and you can, we'll link to their website for more information about that. Next, I have Mike Lack, who is the director of the Harwich Conservation Trust. And this project is called the Hinckley's Pond Herring River Headwaters Eco Restoration Project. And I'll let Mike tell you all about it.
Thanks, Tom. Good morning, everyone. And thank you, Congressman Keating, and all the SNEP Watershed Grant supporters, DER, EPA, DEP, really are creating quite an opportunity for good in so many places. At Harwich Conservation Trust, we are very excited about our Hinckley's Pond Herring River Headwaters Eco Restoration Project, Phase 1. Hinckley's Pond is the primary surface source water for the Herring River, which is the second longest river on the Cape and one of New England's most significant river herring migratory routes and connection to spawning ponds. 174-acre Hinckley's Pond is not only a destination for spawning herring, but also a gateway via two herring runs, Cahoon Canal and Princess Brook, to two additional spawning ponds, Seymour's Pond and Long Pond, the Cape's largest pond. And thanks to SNEP funding, we can embark on phase 1 of this eco restoration endeavor. The funded activities will include completing some data collection, eco restoration design, and regulatory permitting on 2 retired cranberry bog sites bracketing Hinckley's Pond. And the planning and permitting elements will comprehensively inform the scope of work for phase 2 to support eco restoration construction, ultimately providing multiple community benefits, including restoring approximately 30 acres of healthy, functioning wetland habitat, restoring approximately 500 feet of shoreline on the herring spawning pond, exponentially increasing the biodiversity within those restored wetland habitats, enhancing the health and water quality of Hinckley's Pond and by extension the Herring River. We're also going to be creating some public pedestrian trail access and saving scenic views, enhancing scenic views for bicyclists, joggers, walkers, all those who use this portion of the 25-mile regional Cape Cod Rail Trail bike path that spans from Yarmouth to Wellfleet. Section runs right through the larger of the 2 retired bog sites. And it's a really wonderful opportunity for everybody benefiting from that bike trail experience to enjoy the restoration outcome. And this next and last benefit is also really exciting. One of our aspirations is to work with students from the Cape Cod Regional Technical High School, which just so happens to be located directly across the street from the larger of the 2 retired bog sites. And so we would like to offer outdoor classroom opportunities for students and faculty to learn about environmental science and water quality and innovative ecological restoration techniques, so that we can help inspire the next generation of environmental stewards and decision makers. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Mike. And we're really, really excited about this project. This will be the second cranberry bog restoration that we funded on the Cape. I'm going to introduce one more grantee to tell you about her project, and then we'll open up the Zoom to questions and maybe hopefully a little bit of discussion. This is I'd like to introduce April Vopst from the Association to Preserve Cape Cod. April has been the project manager on a bunch of SNEP grants and done quite a bit of very effective work in stormwater, wetland restoration, and now the new grant that APCC will be doing, that April is the lead on, is stormwater management at public boat ramps on Cape Cod. April.
Thanks, Tom. Again, my name is April Vopst. I'm the restoration ecologist with the Association to Preserve Cape Cod. We're a regional nonprofit working on Cape Cod with all 15 towns to help support planning and implementation of restoration projects. As Tom alluded to, we've been most recently focused on a stormwater management project working with the town of Barnstable. It's a 5-year, now kind of $2 million project where we've installed now 8 green infrastructure stormwater systems to help improve the coastal water quality. And so kind of building upon that, we wanted to expand the scope of that and look more regionally. So with this SNEP 21 grant, we'll be working with the 11 Cape Cod towns within the SNEP region, as well as the Massachusetts Department of Fish and Game Office of Fishing and Boating, to look at public boat ramps where we can address stormwater runoff that's leading to pollution in both our freshwater ponds and our coastal waters, and particularly the freshwater ponds that are connected to our coastal embayments. So this will be a large-scale planning project looking at identifying all of those locations, prioritizing sites, and doing some early concept designs to create a kind of region-wide stormwater management plan. And then with the top priority sites, including input from both the towns and the state partners, as well as local organizations and the public, will then select the top 5 sites and progress those through to permit-ready design plans. And with that, the hope is that we'll not only provide this regional plan for how to continue to address stormwater management at these locations, but also move forward with getting several of these projects prepared for implementation, help support some of those towns and the state and moving ahead with construction and installation of those systems.
Okay, thanks, April. And thanks to all our Massachusetts grantees for providing information on the work that they're doing, the important work that they're doing. And so I'd like to, we have a little bit of time. I'd like to open up the floor to anybody who has any questions for our grantees or anybody else on the panel. You can either type something into the chat box, or if you want to raise your hand, I think I should be able to see those on the interface here. And so, you know, if anybody has any questions, we're happy to entertain those. I don't see anything coming up. Rob, you see anything?
I do not.
Okay. Okay, well then let me just thank everybody. Thank all of our speakers and our grantees. The latter, I'll be in touch. And the former, thank you so much for your support of this program. And hopefully we'll see you next year. Hopefully we'll see you in person to announce the 2022 SNEP Watershed Grants. And thanks for joining us today.